Good morning, everyone. It's Phil again at Healthcare Business News and 5 Minutes in Healthcare. And today I have the privilege of being joined by Dr. Dilsizian, who is the chief of the Division of Nuclear Medicine at the University of Maryland, and also the current president of the SNMMI, the Society for Nuclear Medicine. And correct me, Dr. Dilsizian, welcome. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Phil. It's a really pleasure. It's been a wonderful year as a president of the SNMMI. As you know, my term is ending this weekend with a virtual meeting. It's been a real privilege to be representing the society. It's been an exciting and a rewarding year. But as you can imagine, we've been faced with the challenge of COVID-19.
How has COVID-19 impacted you on a personal and professional day-to-day basis, Doctor?
Well, I can answer it both ways. First, as the president of the society, we had to take leadership role in continuing to provide compassionate care to our patients, but safely for our healthcare providers, nuclear medicine technologists, and physicians. So we needed to form task forces. We also needed to have a community where our members can communicate and share their experiences, their challenges day to day, and maybe modifying protocols so that it will be performed safely to our patients. We've done that very effectively as a society. We also provided our members resource center, COVID-19 resource center, where we provided all the data that government agencies were producing. We also had to inform our residents about changes, if any, in certification and training. So all of these we had to move quickly and provide it for our members. Now, coming back to University of Maryland as a physician, practicing physician, we also had to make wise decisions. The first of all, as you pointed out, all of the elective procedures were first delayed because there was no need to expose patients or healthcare providers to COVID-19 unnecessarily. Second, we modified some of our protocols. For example, when performing perfusion and ventilation lung scans, we realized that the key information in a lung scan is in the perfusion component. And with ventilation, as you know, COVID-19 being an airborne disease, we wanted to prevent a potential risk of our technologists being exposed to COVID-19. So we had to make tough decisions as that. With cardiology, for example, when you're exercising on a treadmill, you're breathing heavily and you're potentially exposing others in the room, in the environment, COVID-19. And therefore, we switched from treadmill exercise to pharmacologic vasodilator stress imaging, which provides equivalent accuracy, but avoiding the potential of infection. So overall, you can imagine that by doing these important measures, the volume of the studies dropped significantly in the first few weeks. But then as we became more and more informed about PPE, the personal protection equipment, and being able to test some of our patients before they came to the clinic, we were able to open the clinic safely and cautiously to almost near back to normal volume at the present time.
Interesting. And thoughtful. Tell me, has the pandemic disrupted the supply of radiopharmaceuticals?
Well, it did because, as you know, technetium-99m, molybdenum supply, most of it is coming from outside the United States. With the flights being canceled, coming from Europe, from South Africa, we had challenges. Now, fortunately, even though those were important challenges, not having the radiopharmaceuticals delivered on a timely manner as we used to, because of the demand within the United States, the volume of the studies significantly decreased, so that the demand-supply mismatch did not really occur significantly. It was a kind of comparable match. In the meantime, as a society leaders, we made the case to the airline companies, to ministers of different countries, to promote and to encourage the delivery of these radiopharmaceuticals to the United States. So as we were ramping up the volume, so was the delivery of the radiopharmaceuticals to the United States. So I'm talking from the University of Maryland's perspective, we didn't really experience a significant limitation of demand. If there was such case, we had an alternate radiopharmaceutical that we could have provided to get the same information.
And what about FDG? FDG is produced here in the States. Was there a shortage of FDG?
Not at all. As you know, there are several cyclotrons in the community, in our Baltimore community, and the delivery of FDG continued. And one of the volume-driven studies was FDG oncology. As you can imagine, patients with newly diagnosed or having chemotherapy based on FDG PET-CT images, those studies were not elective, and those studies continued. The volume really didn't deteriorate much at all in that setting. And again, we were very fortunate that we never had to turn a patient away because we didn't have an FDG dose, and we were able to maintain our volume with our technologists and physicians rotating through the PET clinic.
Now, I know that the Society of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging, just because I didn't get it right the first time, SNMMI, like all industry groups, are going virtual with their events. Obviously, we're all going to miss the face-to-face meetings, but what do you see advantages of a virtual meeting, particularly in this climate?
Well, Phil, that's a great question. Of course, there's no substitute to in-person meeting. We were excited and looking forward to our meeting in New Orleans this year. And as you know, COVID-19 spiked quite high in New Orleans, and the convention center where we were going to have our in-person meeting was converted to hospital in kind of staging for patients who were being discharged from hospitals for continued care. So that massive hospital setting of the convention center was going to be continued until the fall. And so the mayor and the governor of New Orleans and the state, Louisiana, made the case that they are not going to be entertaining any large gatherings, including major meetings like the convention of the SNMMI. So we immediately converted to our virtual meeting. And I have to say, initially we thought that it may not be as exciting, but the virtual meeting platform has become very exciting. It's very interactive. And when I started talking to my two sons who grew up on the internet playing all these video games, they were actually very comfortable and happy to be able to maneuver the meeting through different pathways, going to the exhibit hall, going to the plenary sessions, having a chat room. So for the millennials, this seems to be very intuitive. And so I'm, so initially we were concerned, but we're also caring for our members, realizing that a lot of our members have lost their educational fund to attend the meetings. Some will be getting salary cuts because of the volume of the imaging has decreased. So we, as a society, decided to make the meeting free registration for all members and nominal fee for non-members. And with that, I'm happy to report that usually our face-to-face meeting we have about 5,000 or 5,500 members. And about a week ago, our registration was already above 5,000 members. So meeting, if not surpassing what we would have expected to the in-person meeting. Now, many other advantages of the virtual meeting is that we are reaching international members. Some of our international members, as you know, would love to come to meetings in the United States, but the airline travel, the hotels, the registration are just too expensive for certain countries. So by joining with IAEA, they were able to sponsor a number of international members who can now be educated and be part of our meeting virtually. And the time zone, of course, will not be as important because this will be available on demand. You can watch it anytime you'd like, and it's going to be available throughout the year. So there are going to be several advantages to the virtual meeting that we really didn't envision as we were moving from the in-person meeting. So we are looking forward this weekend for this very exciting meeting. A lot of the scientific sessions were already pre-recorded, and we are going to even have a presidential reception via a virtual meeting where we're going to be able to have a dialogue. We're going to be able to congratulate each other. We're even going to have to toast with wine or preferred drinks. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I experimented yesterday with the interface just to make sure that I was prepared in advance. And I agree with you. It was it's intuitive and easy to use, and I'm looking forward to. I'm on duty tomorrow. I forget what time. I think 4 o'clock or something like that. So anyway.
No, Phil, I just wanted to add that even the exhibitors, you can imagine that industry was first anxious and cautious. We had the majority of the industry not only sponsor, we even had 10 new companies coming in to sponsor. So I wanted to thank all of the companies and vendors to support the meeting, understanding that this is a free registration, that we are going to move the field forward together and provide molecular imaging to improve patient outcome and patient care, even these difficult and challenging times. And I wanted to thank all of the vendors who supported us.
Well, Dr. Dilsizian, it's very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining me today. You are a real intellectual and obviously a caring guy. So thank you very much for joining us today.